everyone, welcome back to the Analyst of Vajiram and Ravi, where we bring to you detailed discussion of important articles from Hindu and Indian Express. The topics to be dealt in today's Analyst are as follows. In our first topic, it's going to be about the ongoing farmers' protest, which has sparked the debate about the legalization of MSPs in India. The second topic is about a very important critical mineral, the copper. We will read about its role in energy transition, and meanwhile we will also evaluate the performance of copper industry in India. The third topic is about a very important body, the Defence Acquisition Council, which is responsible for capital acquisition and procurement of defence products in India. And finally, we will wind up the discussion with reading a very important place in news. This is the Chabahar Port, and we will also study why is it strategically important for India. So, let's get started. So, our first topic is about the ongoing farmers' protest. The coverage in Indian Express is named as the MSP fallacy. So we are going to evaluate one of the protests, one of the demands that they have been protesting for. Okay, so what is happening? What is the context? The ongoing farmers' protest, as farmers have been protesting from Punjab, Haryana and UP and marching towards Delhi in a Delhi Chalo protest in order to demand for some of the 20 pointers that they have enlisted in front of government. This includes demanding pensions for them. This includes that the government or India should back out from WTO and all the other free trade agreements which are causing impediments in formulating farmer-friendly policies. It also includes linking Manrega with farming activities, and it also includes a clause, a demand specifically where they're asking for legalizing the minimum support prices for all the crops in India. So in light of these farmer demand, we are going to read this particular topic and evaluate the viability of legalization of MSP in India. So to first of all talk about why this protest is happening, it's first of all because they are asking for legal guarantee of MSP for all the crops. So currently India gives MSP or minimum support price. We are going to study it in detail in the next slide, in about 24 crops, including food crops and non-food crops, for example cotton and jute, etc. So India is providing only limited number of crops. Now our farmer wants that it should be there for all the crops that are produced in India. Second, the amount or the formula that is used to calculate the amount of this MSP should also be revised in line of what has been recommended by Dr. Swaminathan. So Dr. M.S. Swaminathan is the father of Green Revolution in India, we all know very well. So he actually gave this formula of C2 plus 50%, wherein he says that the total calculation of production cost that is borne by each farmer should be calculated in a very comprehensive way, including not only what he has foregone in the form of say his input expenses on say fertilizers, irrigation, etc., but should also include the unpaid family labor done by his family members in the same farming field. Then should also include some of the interest rates or also the rents that the person is paying in the capital asset, or for example in farming in the particular land. So all of this comprehensive cost should be calculated to calculate the total MSP of the farmers, and it should be at least 50% of the total weighted average cost of production of the farmer. So our farmers are demanding that this formula of C2 plus 50% should be used, or it should be basically taken up by the government of India. Now, when we are talking about the C2 includes two broad things. First of all, it includes the rent on the land of the farmers, and it includes some of the interests that are foregone. For example, a farmer has taken loan for something and paying interest for the same. So that interest should also be included, and it should also include some of the imputed costs, imputed or implied costs. So first of all, let me teach you the concept of imputed cost. Imputed, implied cost, or in the other words, an opportunity cost is basically the cost or the opportunity cost that is paid by the farmer for utilizing a particular resource. Now in farmer, or largely in the economy, we have three kind of inputs. So first of all, or three kind of resources. So first of all, we have got land, we have got labor, and we have got capital. This is required for all the sectors of economy, and so for the farming also. Now, what is the opportunity cost of using a land? The opportunity cost is C. A person has decided to take his acres of land in order to grow a particular crop. Now the opportunity cost, the bearing is, he could have rented that land and took his monthly income, secured his income. He could have created a factory on the same or laid down an industry on the same. He could have used it for the recreational activities or for living in the same land, creating farmhouses, etc. Instead of doing all this, he is using it for farming. So all of this is the opportunity cost. Second, the labor opportunity cost. The labor that is full-time employed in the farm fields could have gone for pursuing higher education, could have gone for skill development, skill training, so could have gone in the urban areas to pursue their employment. All of that is compromised because they have chosen to perform labor in agricultural field. That is another opportunity cost. Next is the amount of capital. So the amount of capital that the farmer is using in order to procure inputs for farming fields or in order to mechanize the field could have been very easily used in order to purchase certain stocks or dividends or to have investment in R&D, research and development, etc. So all of these are the opportunity cost that the farmer has foregone in order to take up the activity of farming, and that needs to be compensated, and that is included in this C2 formula that is devised by MS Swaminathan. So now first let's understand what is MSP and what brought the need of MSP in India. So MSP has been going on in India since 1960s, ever since agricultural revolution, the green revolution happened in India. See, the problem, the demand of MSP lies from the problem that farmer encounters. The problem of entering or working in a buyer's market. So a farmer largely operates at the mercy of the buyer. So they are never the price makers, rather they are the price takers. Because what happens, a farmer, say for example, we are talking about a farmer who produces tomato and we are going to compare it with somebody who's producing, say, cosmetics at Nykaa. So let's say somebody who has produced lipsticks. So let us have a comparison between both of them. When we talk about a tomato growing farmer, then he will be producing bulk amount of tomato. So he wouldn't be counting that one person is going to need 10 tomatoes, another is needing 20 tomatoes. He will be doing bulk production. Now he is left at the mercy of the consumer, whether how much tomato is consumed by them. So first of all, he is always at the mercy of consumer. This is not the case with, say, a particular company producing lipstick, because they know their consumer, they know the number of demands, number of people who will be choosing their lipstick, so they will be creating it likewise. And also, lipstick is not perishable. Tomato, on the other hand, is very quickly perishable. That is another thing. The farmer also doesn't have much control on the prices because they are nobody to decide the MRP. MRP is decided by the market forces, by the consumer. This is not the case with a non-perishable good like lipstick. So therefore, the market in which farmer operates is very, very critical and is very, very susceptible to market or price volatility. Therefore, government needs to provide a security blanket to our farmers so that they never fall too much below the average price levels. And this is where the guaranteed levels of MSP come into play. So this is a kind of minimum floor pricing or minimum fixed amount that the government promises to offer to the farmer whenever government procures their product and the rate of the product is going below the designated MSP. So MSP is currently designated for about 23 crops in India. And different crops, what are the deciding factors of this MSP? There are multiple factors taken into account. There are crop related factors, for example, the input prices, the production cost, the past market prices, demand and supply. There are supply side factors and there are other factors. These factors are very important because they can be asked in UPSC prelims exam. So please pay kind attention to them. Now the most important factor among them is the cost of production, which largely determines the amount of MSP that should be given. Now, there are multiple methods to calculate this cost of production. This can be broadly divided into three types. First method is to calculate it via the A2 formula. So let's first talk about these formulas in detail. The first one is the A2 formula. A production cost that is borne by any farmer is basically what? The input cost that has been incurred to him. For example, he'll be purchasing certain irrigation facilities, certain equipment, certain machineries, he'll be purchasing certain fields, fertilizers, pesticides, etc. So the cost that has been incurred by the farmer, all of that needs to be compensated duly. So that is counted in A2 formula. It only includes the cost, the input cost that is paid by the farmer. Second one will also include the family labor. So first formula is A2. This is the most narrow interpretation of production costs. Second one would include the family labor, the unpaid family labor, because in fact the family members would also be employing themselves in the field, right? So we need, because that's a kind of disguised unemployment. They are not working on any salary, etc., but they need to be provided some money. And so A2 plus FL, the second formula, is encompassing the family labor, unpaid family labor as well. Now, the third formula is the most comprehensive one, which not only includes A2 and the unpaid family labor, but it also includes the rents and the interest foregone. So this is the most comprehensive formula ever. This formula is known as the C2 formula. Currently, India takes into consideration of A2 plus FL formula in most of the states and for most of the crops. In some of the states and for some of the crops, we take into consideration C2 formula as well. So who determines this MSP in India? Who takes into consideration these formulas? It is a recommendatory body, which is CACP, Commission on Agricultural Costs and Prices. So this commission is responsible, which works within the Ministry of Agriculture. It works for providing recommendation of the MSP on individual crops. And once it has done that, then it is the responsibility of a high-powered organization or committee, which is the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, which is headed by the Prime Minister of India. Then this particular authority is responsible for finally giving the approval for the MSPs in India. So who determines, who fixes the MSP? So we know this. It is a recommendatory body, CACP, and it is finally approved by CCEA, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. We now understood what are the deciding factors, what are the three kinds of production costs. You have also learned the formula currently used by Indian government, and you have also learned who fixes it. So then what is the catch? It seems like a very good policy. What is the catch? Why are farmers debating? The problem with this is it provides no legal guarantee. So if a person is not getting duly paid the MSP on governmental procurement, he has no legal rights available for the same, for the compensation. Unlike Manrega, do you remember Manrega? It has a statutory backing. So a person has compensatory rights because it is legally backed. This is not the case with MSP. Therefore, the demand of legalization of MSP in India. Now let us evaluate what is the viability of having a legalized or a legal right for MSP to the farmers. First of all, there is an immense need for MSP legalization because of the poor implementation of the MSP policy. See, the problem with MSP, as you can see, is that it only works for few number of crops, only merely 23 number of crops. What about the other crops? The people who are growing those other crops will be highly disadvantaged. They will not be having government leisures, government protection, as well as market access as compared to the MSP protected crops. That's the first thing. Second thing, even in these 23 crops, we have only got limited number of crops. We have only got, say, rice and wheat, which is mandatorily procured by the government under its policy, National Food Security Act. So only these two are mandatorily procured by government. All the other crops are procured on ad hoc basis. So it is not very lucrative for the farmers to grow them again. Now, if the farmer will grow only two type of crops because they also want to be monetized and benefited from MSP, what will happen? It will lead to crop pattern distortion in the country. This crop pattern distortion will be bad for the environment, will be bad for the food security, will be bad for the economy. Why? Because you're only going to crop few crops, like you're only going to grow few crops. For example, rice, for example, wheat. By the way, rice is very, very highly water intensive. So when the Green Revolution was being pursued especially in the belts of Punjab, Haryana, UP, there was a drastic depletion of water table that was seen. So it has got environmental implication. Of course, if you do not grow oil seeds, pulses enough, you will also be compromising with the nutritional security of the nation. So there is fault in the existing MSP policy. So therefore, the farmers are demanding that if MSP at all is there, it should be there in all the number of crops. That's the first thing. And so that we can, diversify the crops. We can have the rainbow revolution again, which is ideated by MS Swaminathan. So of course, in order to protect the farmers, in order to protect the economy, protect the food security, legalization of MSP holds some ground. But then what are the challenges with the same? See, challenges of legalization is, first of all, you cannot make the government forcefully procure something which it doesn't want to procure, because government is paying from the hard-earned taxpayers' money, and we cannot let government procure about anything forcefully. So first of all, the forceful procurement will first of all lead to two things. It will lead to overproduction, because people will be incentivized to grow lot many crops even if the economy doesn't need it. This will lead to overstocking. Government does not have enough go downs even till now. FCI doesn't have enough go downs, so many of the procured food grains eventually get spoiled. So what will happen in this case? There will be mass wastage of food. The hard-earned labor, sweat and blood of farmers, all of that will be wasted eventually if you will force the government for the procurement. And second thing, this will lead to skewed production, because of course government cannot actually provide equal amount of MSP for all the crops. It will be differential. So based on this differential pricing, the people will, or the farmers will be preferring different crops. For example, MSP is high on rice, so everybody will start growing rice rather than millets, on which MSP will be quite lower. So now there will be skewed production in the economy as well. That is going to be the first challenge. The second challenge is the disadvantages for the unsupported crops. As I've already told you, for example, they are not including oilseed. Then where does the oilseed farmer go? Where do they go? They are not even competitive in the market. They are being beaten by the imports from the other countries, especially the Asian countries. So where will they go? Second, this will also generate economic disparity within the farmers. Then it will also cause financial burden on the government, because such a large scale procurement will also lead to heavy checks on them, heavy cash on them. Second, societal implications will be there, because first of all, there will be no equal amount of nutrition available in the market. So definitely there will be some compromise in the food security. Then there will be WTO sanctions as well, because WTO is responsible for beating the anti-competitive practices in the market, and this is a highly anti-competitive practice where government is providing MSP on all the crop products. This will beat the trade of other markets of the world. So therefore it will also have to bear the sanctions from WTO. So are you getting the point? What are the challenges with respect to legalization, but also why we need to take a due consideration, because there are some needs of it as well. So what should be the right striking of the balance? What should be the way forward? The way forward is first of all to tackle the deep roots of the farmer issues and the farmer miseries. It is not about it's not about the crops or the money that you are paying for the crop. It is about our unpaid farmers. It is about the agrarian poverty that percolates in India. So we need to beat that. How do we beat that? There are multiple methods of doing this. We can provide income support to the farmer for the first way. And there are multiple ways to do that again. There's a governmental scheme that you know, which is PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. It provides income support to the farmers. 6,000 rupees to each farmer across the India. And this is done on annual basis. We all know about this. So this is a kind of income support that the government can do. Government can also alternatively provide them insurance and pensions, especially insurance for any kind of fatalities or any kind of price volatility that they may inquire. For example, the droughts that can happen. For example, if any climate adversity happens, or for example, if any market fluctuations happens. So to safeguard our farmers from all of this, there needs to be insurance scheme as well, and more comprehensive coverage insurance schemes. Then they also need to be provided pension scheme. What we can also do is to provide them income security by linking them with Manrega, which also provides a statutory backing of good number of days in which you are getting paid. So the farmers are also demanding that there should be an expansion of the total number of days from 100 to 200 days, and Manrega should be linked with farming. So these demands can actually be fulfilled by the government. Then next is government can try alternatives, for example, the price difference payment options. Now this has been very successfully incorporated by two states. One is Madhya Pradesh and second is Haryana. So Madhya Pradesh has got Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana and Haryana has got Bhavantar Bharpai Yojana. Both of them on similar lines works on addressing the deficiency. How does it address? So for example, if a government has procured a particular product on an amount less than MSP, and the market price, say for example, the market price is 10 rupees and government has said that I will procure it on MSP and MSP was decided to be of 15 rupees. Then this difference between the market price and the MSP will be paid by the government. Now this is better than providing the wholesome MSP to them. So what you are essentially doing, you are trying to bridge this gap between market price and MSP. So this is good for the farmers. They will be convinced, and this will also not cost heavy on the pockets of government. So government will be happy, farmers will be happy. And this PDP kind of scheme is already being implemented under PM Asha scheme. Under PM Asha scheme, we have also got Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana. You can also quote Bhavantar Bharpai, as I have already told you. And finally, whatever money government has, government should try to bring structural reforms within the agricultural sector by boosting the agricultural infrastructure, by linking the farmers, by trying to boost the production and the productivity of our farmlands, by mechanizing them, by linking them with cold chain storage, by building the cold chain infrastructure in the first place, and also by effectively linking them with the food processing industries so that the wastage doesn't happen, the efficiencies of agriculture can be boosted, their productivity can be increased. So these can be better ways, these can be the madhyam mark between the farmers' demand and what government can give. So this is the way forward which you can use also in your answer writing. Now let's talk about the second topic. This is the copper industry. Copper industry is in news because this particular article says that it's a very important critical mineral which is also key to energy transition and economic growth of the country, because it has been observed that the demand of copper has risen drastically to about 16% per year in the last fiscal year. So we know that this rising demand is because of the call for energy transition, because now economies are moving towards the electric fuels from the fossil fuel economy. And what are the building block of these electric vehicles? These cleaner fuels or the cleaner energy that we produce. It is some of the critical minerals like copper. Now first of all, let me introduce this brilliant metal to you. So as you can see that this appears as a reddish brown metal which is non-ferrous in nature. So this is a non-ferrous metal with atomic number 29, which has got brilliant conductivity properties, and therefore it has got immense applications in electrical and electronic industries. What are the particular properties? Let's quickly read that. First of all, it's high malleability. Malleability is the ability of any metal to get converted into thinnest of the sheets. So it can be very easily converted into sheets. Second, it can be very easily converted into wires, thinnest of wires and longest of wires without being brittle. That is known as the ability of being ductile or the ductility. So it has got these two excellent properties. Second, it has got excellent conductivity as well, so that a good amount of current can pass through it without damaging the wire, because it has also got very, very high boiling point and melting point. So you can actually transfer huge amount of current without actually fearing that it may melt or it may get broken. So these properties make it excellent to be used in the electrical industries. One more thing is that it is cheaper as compared to another alternative, silver. Silver has got equivalent malleability, ductility and conductivity, but of course it is more costlier. We have already read this in the NCERT classes of science. Anyway, the next property is its ability to make alloys. So you know about two alloys, brass and bronze, which have been used even since IVC, Indus Valley Civilization. So all of them are made up of copper. So if you talk about brass, so brass is made up of copper along with zinc. Then there is bronze. So bronze is made of copper along with tin. So these are the two alloys which it can create, and again these alloys are also having great applicability in the electrical and electronics industry. Now electrical and electronic industry is basically the driver of the energy transition that we are about to pursue. So if you feed the electrical electronic industry, you are feeding the energy transition. So if you see this particular table, you will be able to see the copper content of the different types of vehicle that we see today. If you talk about the fuel cell vehicles, one of the vehicles or one of the transition vehicles that we are seeing, it uses about 80% of copper. Pure electric vehicles on the other hand uses 160 kg copper per vehicle. So this is the amount of, you can see everywhere be it the internal combustion engine, non-rechargeable hybrid vehicle, be it the hybrid vehicle or the pure electric vehicle, everything is using copper, and the electric vehicle is using copper drastically. So therefore, when we want to pursue the manufacturing of electric vehicles, what we need? We need the production, we need the exploitation, and we need the usability of copper. So this makes copper a very important critical minerals. In the previous analyst, we've already read about what are critical minerals, which are characterized by two important properties. First of all, the essentiality of these minerals for the overall economic growth of the country and also for the national security of the country. So essentiality is the first characteristic for a mineral to be defined as critical. Second, the vulnerability. Why? Because about 13 countries of the world, only 13 countries of the world has got 75% reserves of the total copper in the world. And when you talk about the extraction, who does the extraction? So 39% of the total extraction of copper is done alone by China. So therefore, these countries along with China have got dominant factor and dominant say in the production and extraction of copper. So they will be the pioneers in energy transition as well, right? And we will be dependent on them. So therefore, there is a huge dependence on these countries. So any breakage in the supply chain with these countries will hinder our economic growth, our national security. So the second factor is the vulnerability. Then the expensive extraction of the copper. This is also very, very important. Unlike the other critical minerals, what happens with copper is that its ores, the ores of copper are not very, very enriched. One ore would contain approximately 1 to 5% of the copper, which makes it very, very economically unviable to cultivate or to take it from the ore. So you need vast amount of minings in order to get a good number of or an economical amount of copper with you. That is the problem with the copper mineral, and that is why it is considered as a very important but a very critical mineral. As you can see from this chart, about the maximum amount of copper is produced by the South American country Chile. 23% is produced by them. Then there is Peru, then there is Australia, there is UK, etc. So these are some of the world copper reserves and their distribution pattern. Now, what is the distribution of copper in India? We have already talked about the world, and you can see it from the map as well. You can take this map in your mains answers as well. Let's talk about the India. India has not been very fortunate with the reserves of copper. We have had some of the reserves, some of them being the Khetri mines. We have been reading them in the history chapters as well. But the problem with Indian copper industry is that, first of all, it is very, very dispersed. And second, we do not get economical amount of copper as well. So it is located in the Khetri mines of Rajasthan. It is located in Madhya Pradesh in the Malajkhand mines, of Balaghat of Madhya Pradesh, and also in the Singhbum, Hazaribagh, Palamu districts of your Jharkhand. So it is only in this limited belt where we will find the copper in India. The problem here is the quality of these copper ores, which are already, the copper ore is nowhere as compared to Chile or what Peru or what China is producing. So the quality is also very, very low now. The quality is degrading because the concentration of ore or the quality of ore is also found to be degrading now. That is the main issue that is seen in the case of India. So let's now evaluate the copper industry of India. It has got only 9.4 million tons in situ reserves here. That is also limited in the central belt of India. And the refined, see, one thing is to have the reserves, then is to have the extraction, and then is to have its production. Extraction is also very, very important process in this industry. So here, the copper production, the refinery and the extraction of copper has drastically declined in India. So it has been observed from the government data that India was a net exporter back in 2017, and now the condition is such that because of the closure of more than 70% of the total production capacity of India, we are seeing that it has now converted into a net importer of the copper. So if a statement comes to you that India is a net exporter, it is not true anymore. That you need to remember. And what is the reason behind this is because one of the very important plants that India had, the Sterlite copper smelting plant of Tuticorin, that has stopped working in the last 4 years because of its losing economic viability. And there are only few operant factories now. And there are only few operant industries now, which is you have got Vedanta and you have got your Hindustan Copper Limited. So only few of them are left now, and that too their operation capacity has declined to more than 75%. So see, the challenges faces, first of all, we already have limited domestic reserve. Now their quality is also bad. This overall causes problem for these industries to extract them, to produce them, to mine them. Now, even if they go for mining them, there are multiple challenges faced by them. First of all, the bureaucratic hurdles of mining. There is no transparency in the process of mining. Second, there are environmental challenges as well, because people are not allowing them to mine. See, in order to mine the copper, a good amount of copper, you have to mine huge amount of area. This will obviously be having some environmental implication, which is not liked by the government, not liked by the localites. So this also causes the industries to back off from the copper production. If you do not have enough number of industries in your country to produce the copper, extract the copper, how will you take out this metal in order to build your economy? So these are some of the challenges associated with the copper industry of India. There is also technological obsolescence. See, what is happening? We are using outdated technologies for smelting and extraction of copper, which is again making it a very, very costly affair. Then, there are certain industrial challenges. I've already told you that because the ores are not very rich in India, therefore, there is poor economies of scale of mining it, extracting it. There are cheap dumping by the ASEAN because of the government policy. So, in government policy says that because we need copper, we do not have enough. So it allows for duty-free import of copper in India, especially from the ASEAN countries. So this also poses a competitive challenge for the Indian industries. And then they have environmental regulations, of course. These are some of the impediments which are seen or encountered by the Indian copper industry. Now, how can we boost the copper industry? Because we are about to become administrator and we want to have certain way forward, certain solution for every problem. The first solution should be to streamline the exploration. First of all, let's try to figure out if there are any untapped or hidden resources, reserves in India. For that, we need to streamline the process, bring in the private efficiencies along with the government agencies. We also need to provide quicker environmental clearances to the companies. Then we need to promote joint ventures with the global players, so that global players, for example, China, USA, for example, Peru, Chile, they can come and they can put FDI investments in India. They can also share with us their technological capacities and their abilities, their skills, etc. So we can harness that with the help of global investments. Then we should try to invest in R&D for sustainable mining practice, so that the environmental concerns that the people have, the government have, that can also be catered. And then we need to modernize the smelting and refining infrastructure. This can be done by encouraging the adoption of cleaner technology, for example, hydrometallurgy, so that it causes less amount of pollution and less usage of water. Then policy and market reforms are a must. Currently, what we pursue duty-free import of the copper from the other countries. That is a good step because we need copper in the end, but at the same time we need to incentivize our domestic players as well by providing them certain tax benefits, subsidies, etc. So government should work in that direction. And finally, we should also try to promote the copper scrap recycling, so that we do not waste this critical resource and utilize it effectively for building a resilient economy and a good transition towards a cleaner one. And now our next topic is about the Defence Acquisition Council, because it has recently approved projects worth 84,000 crore, because of which a lot of approvals of torpedoes or procurement of torpedoes and refueler aircraft, etc. will be done in India. Now you can see from the context that it provides approval for the acquisitions of the defense equipments in India. So basically, it is the highest decision making body for the capital acquisitions of the defense products in India for all the related wings. For example, the Army, the Navy, and also for the Air Force. Now, what led to the formation of Defence Acquisition Council? This is not a new one. This has been operational since 2001, and it came in the wake of Kargil War of 1999, immediately after which a reform committee was set up. A group of ministers with the aim of reforming national security structure was created, and they gave multiple recommendations. One of them was to build a permanent Defence Acquisition Council, and so this was built in the year 2001. And this actually follows up the policy, the defense acquisition policies of India. So currently we are working with the DAP 2020, which is replaced the erstwhile DAP 2016, and it has liberalized our acquisition policy a lot with a tinge of indigenization of the products. So you can see that how it provides for an overall enhancement in the indigenous content in our defense sector. So all the products that we will be procured will be finally now categorized into 5 categories. Here, buy Indian, then there will be buy Indian category, buy and make Indian, buy global and manufacture in India, and buy global. These 2 categories have been introduced by the DAP 2020. It says that minimum 50% of the total defense procurement should be done in the first category, that is buy Indian. Then minimum 50% of make in India should be there in the products. Minimum 50% of buy from global and manufacture in India should be done. So these are some of the provisions of the new policy of defense acquisition, and who realizes this? This is the Defense Acquisition Council. Now, what is the composition of this council? So it comprises not only of the ministers but also of the chief of the defense staff and the other chiefs. So it includes Minister of Defense, Minister of State for Defense. It also includes multiple chiefs, chiefs of Navy, chiefs of Army, and chief of your Air Force. Then it also includes chief of Integrated Command, and it includes multiple secretaries as well. So overall it includes 13 members in this council. So this is a very democratic process which takes place, which also sets accountability of these people in the right place, because here we can see the involvement of Minister of Defense, who will be subjected to due parliamentary scrutiny regarding his decisions made in this council. Then what are the significances of Defense Acquisition Council? First of all, it aids and provides a fillip to the indigenization of the defense services. It also aids in having quicker, faster decision making, and finally leads to time-bound procurement of the defense equipments in India. This boosts the defense or the security infrastructure of India. So first of all, it brings a fillip to the indigenous defense industry. It therefore enhances the security because it leads to procurement of all the 3 sectors of our army. So it leads to of our military, so of army, of navy, of air force. Then it also leads to transparency, because first of all I have already told that ministers are involved in here, so they will be accountable to the parliament. And second, they have also created a portal named Srijan created by Ministry of Defense in order to track this acquisition, all the acquisitions that have been announced by this council. Now coming to the last topic of the day, this is the Chabahar Port, and this has been in news because India has urged the Central Asian countries to use this port for enhancing their connectivity with the rest part of the world and with India. So what is the importance of India and why India is putting a spotlight on this? So first of all, let's do the locational analysis of Chabahar Port. So Chabahar Port is an extremely important port for India, which is located in Iran, and it is the only oceanic port of Iran which is situated in its southeastern coast. This coast is known as the Makran coast, and here is where the Chabahar Port is located. It is also located very close to the Gwadar port, which is actually controlled by China and it belongs to Pakistan. So it is also strategically very important for India. But to read more, you should also know that this is where this port opens up to the Gulf of Oman, that which is responsible for connecting the Persian Gulf with the Arabian Sea. This is the locational analysis. Now, to understand the significance of India, why India is participating or bringing global spotlight to this area is because India has got its due stakes in it. So, let's first understand the structure of the port. This port is actually classified into 2 ports. It is actually containing of 2 ports having 5 berths each. So one is Shahid Beheshti and then Shahid Kalantari. Now under an agreement between India and Iran, India has been given a lease of 10 years to operate, to develop and to reconstruct, refurbish the ports and the berths of Beheshti, Shahid Beheshti. So that is why, because we have got stakes in it, we are trying to bypass the Gwadar port and the Karachi port with the help of this particular Chabahar port of Iran. Now, in 2016, that was for the first time when the India got this or signed this agreement with Iran. And in fact, in 2017, our first ever wheat consignment was published to Iran directly by bypassing the Pakistan. And this was done in the year 2017, as I've already told. Now, what is the specific significance? Now, let's say you want to travel to Iran. Now, let's say you want to travel to Iran, or let's say you want to travel to Afghanistan. Would it be possible to travel to them without by bypassing the Pakistan? Previously to Chabahar, it was next to impossible. But the thing is that Pakistan doesn't allow us to trade through its domestic territory. We also do not want to access the Karachi port, and we also do not want to engage the Gwadar port where Chinese influence is there. So we somehow want to reach out to the Central Asia or to Afghanistan or to Iran without traversing through China or Pakistan. So the first thing is that we want to bypass, and we have successfully done that by creating or building or taking this in lease, the Chabahar Port. That is the first significance. Second significance, it will help us enhance the trade relations with Iran, and it will also help us provide quicker humanitarian assistance to the Central Asian countries, Iran, etc. So first of all, it helps us provide alternative trade route, so that we can bypass the Pakistan. Second, it will help us boost the economic relations, and lastly, it will help us to boost our humanitarian assistance that we provide to them. One of the other significances is that it forms a very important node or terminal for the INSTC, the International North-South Transport Corridor, which connects the Russia and India, basically connecting the entire of your Asian continent with your European continent. So if you talk about the INSTC route, it is a transit multimodal project which has been pursued by multiple countries including India. So it starts with the Jawaharlal Nehru port of Mumbai, and it goes all the way up to the Astrakhan port of Russia. It connects all of this. This is multimodal, which means it will be having certain ports, it will be having roads, it will be having railway connections as well. Now, as you can see that Chabahar is a part of this. Chabahar and Zahedan railway route is a part of this. As you can see, it is connecting in this route, and this is the INSTC corridor. So it is also very important for us to access or to reinforce this INSTC corridor. So this was about the Chabahar port. Why is it important for India, and what is INSTC corridor also? Now, on the basis of this, can you now try to solve this prelims 2017 question? It says, what is the importance of developing Chabahar port by India? Is it for African countries? No. Is it for improving relations with the oil producing Arab countries? No. India will not depend on Pakistan for access to Afghanistan and Central Asia? Exactly. So correct answer is C. So this is how we have already solved one PYQ based on this knowledge. Now, this was all about today's discussion. I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Have a great time ahead.